Okay, it's the next morning. I've had a good night's sleep, and I've played through the piece, and I've made some adjustments, which is the beauty of playing through it the next day. There's always things that you want to fix. So some of these things that I fixed were this G. I was starting the line on a B, and it's cute, but it's clever, but I think it's better as a G. So I changed it back to a G. But this is good because this line you get the root note being a G, and then later on, 2 bars later, you've also got a G chord, but then we make the root note the B. So you get a nice contrast. You still get to use the B on a G, which is good, but it doesn't dominate quite so much. So I changed that. I had an E-7. I was playing at a low D and a B below that. Clever, but again, not the best. And when I played it through, I could hear that it wasn't the ideal. I did change this. I had this set of 3. I had a C, E, G, C, E, G, but for some reason I didn't like it. I think the C didn't go well with the A-7, even though it's there. But so I changed it to an E. So I went E, B, G, and it's just a bit better. It's not a big difference. This was a difference. I did have this note was an F sharp, but it can't be an F sharp because I'm playing an F sharp with the right hand there, right? So I can't play it here. So I had to change that back to an A, and that was the first page done. And then I found the second page, essentially this line is the same as this line. The second line of the intro is basically the same as the first line of the second page. The only difference being this low G, whereas in the intro it's a D. That's the only difference. So I just basically copied that across and put in a low G, and slightly changed this arpeggio. Instead of being a D, G, B, I made it a G, D, G. Small change, nothing major. So that was like that. And also the final line is also the same as the second line of that. It's basically the same thing. That is that. So I just copied that across. So that was done. I didn't have to do anything there. So the only thing I had to do was to do this line here, which I just filled in using the same principles I was using yesterday. I did make a slight change in a few places. These 3 notes on the run-up, I just did it a 1/10 below the treble, which works well. What I did in the intro is a little more clumsy, or clever, depending how you want to call it. I had B, D, G, but here I just had a 1/10 below, which is an octave and a third. Very small difference. That worked pretty well. When you do have a run like that, it's always, as I mentioned previously, it's always a good idea to consider playing a third below, or even a 1/6 below. Consider it. Don't do it all the time, or it becomes, quite derivative. And also here was the same thing. So you've got a G and that's a B, so we're just a third below there. Whereas in a third below, it works well. It works well. I mean, if you do it too much, you get sound a bit Mozarty or something. Maybe a bit too pretty if you do it too much. Of course, early Mozart, very pretty. Not so pretty in his late period, but although it's funny to talk about Mozart's late period. He was already dead at 36, and I was only really starting to do serious arrangements at that age. I was only just beginning. So it's funny that. And Schubert was even less. It's incredible the way people's lives can be. Anyway, that is the way it is, and I can play it through and you can have a listen. This is how it sounds. And there you go. So, sounds fine, sounds good, I believe, sounds good. I don't hear any obvious problems. The only problem is this. As I mentioned yesterday, it's completely out of character. You've got all these arpeggios and all of a sudden you've got block crotchets. It's completely jarring, so it has to go. But I do like it. I think it sounds good. It just doesn't belong with the rest of that section. The rest of this verse doesn't belong. So what I'm going to do, rather than throw it away altogether, what I'm going to do is do at least 2 different arrangements for this. So it's 3 verses. So the first verse will be like this. I'll just correct that piece so that it's the same. But I'll keep that block structure and I'll use that for the 3rd verse. And instead of using arpeggios in the 3rd verse, I'll use some kind of block structure. So I'll muck around and I'll see what I can find. And I'll have to extend, of course, the score, which will then be at least twice as long. The only question is, do I then put in a 3rd variation or a 3rd type of arrangement? And I might do that, in which case the whole thing will be 3 times as long. But stay tuned. I've got some other things to do today, but I've got to this point. I've just got to fill in those 2 bars, and the first verse will be done. And I'll go and look at the rest. So I'll be back when I've extended the score and I'm looking at doing the block crotchets. I'll be back and take you through that. Okay, I'm back again. Tackling the next stage of this project, which is the block chords. Now, I was thinking about it. One thing I can do is have a stride approach, and if I do that, I can factor in this. I can factor that in, right? So it shouldn't be too jarry. So, for example, I can go. Too jarry because it's all crotchets. I could do that, but I was thinking I really want to make a feature of this. because some of the chords that have come about by trying to have a walking bass line like that are really interesting. So I thought, what I'm going to do is go through this and try to find other interesting walking bass patterns like that. And just see what I can make of it, because this is the thing, I don't know how it's going to go, but you've got to experiment. Try stuff out and see what works, and spark a bit of something in your brain and it'll turn into something. That's the idea. I just had a Celebrex help out my arthritis. The sad fact is I've got arthritis in both hands, all around the wrists, and I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to play piano for. It's and the same for guitar. Playing through pain a fair bit of the time. It's not good, and it's going to get worse. So it's sad, but it can't be helped. There's no cure. There's no cure. Your bones wear away, and that's the end of it. And then you've got idiot surgeons who make it worse. Like I went for a cortisone injection into the CMC joint there, and an idiot surgeon subjected me to extreme pain and did permanent damage all the way up this metacarpal, completely wrong what he did. He damaged me. Fucking specialists. If you think all specialists, all surgeons are good, think again, because at least half of them aren't any good. Doesn't matter how many letters they can put after their name. Some are good and some are not. You just got to find the good ones. Unfortunately, in my case, I didn't have a say in the matter. This bloke just turned up. I had no idea who he was, and he proceeded to do permanent damage to my thumb. And I'm sure if I took him to court, he'd just claim I was imagining it, or it was a normal artifact of a simple cortisone injection. I mean, I know that he did the wrong thing, but is the court going to see that? No, they're just going to believe him because he got letters after his name. Anyway, not going to go on about that at this point. I'm going to try and find, see what I can find. I'm going to experiment here. So this is back to the start of it, right? So that's supposed to be a G, but can I put an A in the bass? It was supposed to be a G like this. It's supposed to be right, G. But if I make it a G and then I try to put an A in the bass, I can turn that into an A minor 7, and then the next one would be a B, and then a C, even though these things are supposed to be E minors, right? It's supposed to be E minor. E minor 7 really, but by going, that's still in the E minor, but the next one I'm going to play a C underneath an E minor, right? It actually works quite well. It turns into it just turns it into a C major 7/9. Works quite well, especially with the melody up high above middle C. It works quite well. So I could do that, and then that would lead into this next one, which is supposed to be a C, but I could play what about if I and I could get away with that, right? So it's supposed to be a C, but if I play a D in the bass, again it becomes a ninth, which is nice with the ninth. If that's a D in the root, a ninth in the treble, trying to go up. So I walked up to a D here, and then I've got to figure out what I'm doing next. I can walk back down again, I suppose. I could do that, right? I could walk up to the D and then back to the G again. Try that. Legitimate. And then what? Keep walking down maybe? The F sharp's a problem. B's a problem, trying to walk down. If I'm trying to walk down, I got up to the E minor there, and then the D. It's sort of running out of steam, it's not really working. If I'm going down, but maybe if I go up, just experimenting. I don't know where this is going. This is supposed to be an E minor chord here. But it could be a C. Could easily make it a C instead. That's how I got the C in. So I came up from the G, I went, and then the B, and then, because I couldn't make the A work, right? If I try to walk up, oh, maybe I could. I suppose I could. Do I want to is the question. Is the first one really worth doing? So I went. It's a bit of a funny thing though. Just come back up again. I thought I walked all the way back down. What went wrong there? walked up to an E that time. Walked up to an E. Anyway, I'm just going to muck around with this a bit more, and I'll get back. I'm sure you don't want to watch every last muck around, because it's going to be a lot of them. Like this could go on for hours. All right, I've mucked around with it quite a lot more, and had lunch, and had a bit of a doze because my eyes were tired and I was worn out. It's a laborious process. You've got to keep the brain firing and all times, and also do the mechanics of being able to play the music you've just written, and look for things, right? And I found a bunch more stuff, so check it out. So this is what I've got now. Instead of going back to the G and starting it again, I tried going up from the B. Just go back up again, right? And it works. It goes like this. Cool. The second line here where I'm going. Lower. So I tried to find some kind of walking pattern there, but it just wasn't working. So I returned to this idea of just using the same chord twice, which I didn't want to do for most of it, but occasionally it's good to do it sometimes, right? So, and I thought about doing it 4 times to get the drone effect. And I've written a lot of music with a drone, and the drone's great, but I think not in this case. So I just stuck with just play it twice. It's kind of a neutral thing, right? And then you're ready to walk off again, walk off again. I don't like that. Could make it A minor 7. And then I need something to fill in this little gap for a bar while at the end of the phrase, right? Just need to fill it in until the voice comes in. So I just went for this. Like that. It works. A pattern in the bass. Yeah, so this thing, do I want... So the reason I don't like that is there's 3 C's. There's too many C's. And it's a C chord. It's good to play the C, but there's just too many of them. So I'm just experimenting. Too many C's. There's 3 C's and 2 G's, but there's no E, so E has to go in there somewhere. I could make it E and an A, or just a C and or C and an E. A minor 7's got a bit more richness, but do I want it? Is it too much richness? Just whack it in an E. What's better, the or let's go with the A minor 7 on this occasion for the moment. We can always change it later if I don't like it. It's the beauty of coming along the next day and fixing up the mistakes. It's funny when people who don't know it wouldn't understand, but people who don't know it would think, oh yeah, you listen to it and it sounds right, so it must be right, right? Well, that's just the way it sounds to you at the time. But when you come back to it, it might sound a bit different. It will sound perhaps a bit different, and that's when you make the adjustment. I mean, it's the same as if you're doing a mix down with a bunch of tracks, audio mix. You could work away and think it sounds great, and you come back and go, oh no, that's not right. The bass is too far back, or can't hear the snare, things like that. Seems right at the time, but you need to go back. A mix is never finished until you've listened to it at least a day later, at least once, maybe, and probably twice. And you can't just keep listening to it because you lose the ability to distinguish things. When you just keep listening to it again and again, you lose that ability. It's when you're fresh, when your ears are fresh, that's when you hear it. And it's the same with a piano arrangement or any kind of arrangement. It's when your ears are fresh, you'll hear it the way that someone who's never heard it before will hear it, perhaps. And so you'll hear the things, the glaring problems. They're glaring at the then, but they wouldn't be glaring the day before when you were working on it and your ears were full of ideas, right? So. So I didn't want to play that E there. I could have done that. But then you're hitting the E twice, right? Because you're preparing to hit the E in the melody, right? Now the same thing happened here with the G. I had to hit the B twice, but there was no getting around that really. I could have done this, but I thought it was a bit too big. And I decided that the G thing wasn't a problem. But this A minor 7, trying to avoid hitting the B twice. To make a triad, I would have had to do this with a low D, and it's a bit too messy in the bass. That's why I didn't use that. Anyway, so that's great. That's the introduction, all worked out. It's all following walking around, stepwise walking around in the bass. That's what brings it all on, and it's refreshingly different to the way it was played originally in the first iteration, right, where it goes like this. refreshingly different to that. Now it's quite different. Refreshingly different, which is what you want. Don't bore the listener. Don't bore the listener. It's a lot more work to do multiple arrangements for each verse, a different arrangement for each verse. It's a lot more work, as you're seeing. It's taken me hours just to do those 2 lines, to do the introduction. But you put the work in and you get something out, so at the end you'll have a much more interesting, richer and more interesting piece. But yeah, this is where the brain work goes in, the effort, the love for the piece has to go in at this point. That's why you do it. You show your love for the piece by putting the extra work in, the extra thought in, to get the end result. Because in the end, it'll be worth it. But it's work in the short term. Alright, so now we get to the verse. So we ended the introduction like this. Then the voice comes in. They went way too far with her, clearing my say. This bit, that's not actually sung, that's just in the piano. And this is low, right? Because it's low, you've got to be very careful about the bass that goes with it, because the bass will be close by, you see. It's just a third in the bass. There's a fourth in the bass. So you've got to be very careful about what works. So I went through the whole verse, singing through it, and also playing it at the bass level, right? I mean, these are the notes I'm singing. Went way too far with the clearing I say. So either I'm going to sing it or some other bass is going to sing it, and you've got to make sure that the bass accompaniment is going to work with it. So this stepwise bass, you know, it's going to make a mess of it's not going to work so well. What works well up here, it's not going to work the same down there. I mean, even this, this run up, which is the reason. It's funny, isn't it? It's just those 2 bars, that run up, that I rejected from the first arrangement, has produced, it has engendered an entire different feel for an entire verse, you know. Got to keep the mind open to these things. You see a gem and you figure out how you can use it. In this case, I have to write a whole new arrangement. But it's worth it. But you can't necessarily use it on this, on the rest of this thing. If I can I'll find a bit. So you remember that I think the first and third lines of the second page are basically the same as the second line of the intro, right? So I could try. Now here's the. I'll just try the final line, right? Bring back the reptiles, the mammals and birds. How awesome nature that is far beyond words. Right? And if I try that, that's the same as the second line of the intro. Great. But if I try that down low, see what happens. Bring back the reptiles, the mammals and birds. Our awesome nature that is far beyond words. Actually, it does seem to work. It does seem to work. I could do that. But what I did do was do a more simplified thing. I went through all this last night, looking for optimal notes to harmonise with the bass voice, right? So instead of what I just did, I come up with this. That's what I came up with, which is quite different to much of a muchness. This does actually work pretty well. It does work pretty well. What didn't I like about it? Something I didn't like about it. I'll just start from the start. Didn't like the A. It's not wrong, but and that discord isn't good. Like it's good at the first when you came in on the G there, but when you move to the A, it's wrong, right? What's the words? Mammals and birds. There you go. A discord. Up the top, when I was doing it up in the treble clef, it's quite good, right? But down low, just an octave lower, it's much more discordant. I'm singing the same note as the bass, which I'm trying to avoid that. We don't want to sing the same note as the bass. The bass should always be below the voice, always. So I didn't like that, didn't like this, and I didn't like the A to a B. On the other hand, you get this nice walking bass, but you get these discords. Depends how fussy you are, depends what you're trying to achieve. It's really the question. What are you trying to achieve? As a singer, it's a beautiful thing. If you've got a line, if you've got a bass underneath you that always harmonises perfectly with your voice, you can really make a great delivery of the melody if you've got that kind of support. It's wonderful to have a really nice harmonic support that's bang on, you know. Like it can be interesting to sing things that are slightly discordant or completely discordant. Can be interesting, can also be a challenge, but I think, you know, there's a place for everything, and I don't think this particular piece is not the place for discord, in my opinion. And since I wrote it, I guess my opinion will be what goes. Yeah, probably not the place for discord. So what I'm going to do is I'll probably use the more concordant one. So even when there's there's two notes there, but they both harmonise with the bass. I mean, that's better than, what were we? Instead of, oh, there's another problem, that fifth. In this cute arrangement, you had the fifth, which is fine, it's concordant, but it does sound a bit harsh. It's nicer to have a third, and then of course it goes to the where were we? Yeah, it's a B. Instead of the more concordant one. And of course the end is good in both cases. There's a little bit of discord there. What does the other one does? That's a much worse discord. Funnily enough, that's concordant instead of the simpler one. Oh, there's a discord. What did I do with the other one? The other one came down and went to. There's another discord. Well, it's a fourth, it's not technically discordant, but does sound rather rough. So that's not perfect either. Anyway, I'm going to sketch in the simple ones, purely for the reason that I want the singer to shine. Whether it's me, whether it's someone else singing, I want them to shine. I want them to be able to get into it and really sing, you know, with
a really nice backing, something that's a foundation for them, right? You provide the foundation for the singer to do his stuff on top. That's the art of arrangement. Know what you're trying to achieve and how to do it. And when you've got a song, it's got to be about the singer. When the singer's singing, everything else is there to support the singer. Unless you've got some other reason that you're deliberately trying to create tension between the singer and the accompaniment, but I mean that's for a different type of thing. That's a different feel. Like you can always break every rule, right? There's no rule that can't be broken, but you've got to know when to break the rules, when it applies, when to shoot for discord, when to shoot for concord, when to shoot for slow, when to shoot for fast, when to shoot for beauty, when to shoot for agony, whatever. You've got to know when to do what. So you can always break the rules, when to make a drone, when to make a drone, when to have a quick harmonization, when to have long slow harmonizations. It just depends on the piece and what you're trying to achieve. Anyway, so that's that. I'm going to type it up and maybe I'll give you a listen to it on the computer.
All right, let's fix up these little bits and pieces, and things I changed. I did type this up before, but I'm just going to make a few little adjustments. This note here, I think I wanted this to be a little bit more richness there, so we made that an E-7 and whacked the D in instead of the where are we? Oh, I'm tired, I need to stop. That was the C. Yeah, that was an E. Now it's an E-7. We changed the E to a D. And this D here, I did have it as ADA, which was a bit too much in the way of A's. So I actually went and changed that chord altogether. I think I've changed that to an A-7. It's now an A-7 from a D. I don't know. Probably just trying to get a bit more richness in it. I mean, there's a lot of minor sevenths and ninths and things in this arrangement. So probably just making the most of that kind of stuff, just maximizing that kind of feel. That's the thing with arrangement. Once you work out what you're trying to achieve, what sort of feel you want. When you know what feel you want, that'll govern what chords you pick. What chords you pick and what kind of voicing you use, and etc., etc. This is the one I talked about on camera, so I had too many C's, but since you put the A in, it's not such a problem. You can see all the C's. There's a C there and a C there and a C there, and that was a G, so it was 2 G's and 3 C's. But now it's still 3 C's, but it's got an A and a G. So you get the richness back by doing that. And what did I do here? I've already changed that. That's correct. And I fixed that. All right, that's the first page done. What I probably am going to do when I go to play through this again, I'll probably change the right hand. I just left it in there last night when I was typing this up, just to generate something to play, something to play. So I just took it easy. I just did the easy thing, which was just copy across what you've already got, right? because that's a good starting point. Then you can play it through, and it might not be what you end up with, but it's something you can work with in the meantime. For some reason you have to click on the 000 in this iteration of Forte, otherwise you can't click apply. I mean, yep, there's no end of, more or less infinite bugs like that. Bugs or bad choices, whatever. Things that hadn't been thought about properly. Alright, let's just fill in these notes. So it's all just crotchets, shouldn't take long. It wouldn't take long, except because we moved the, there's another thing. When you go to lift one word, you get the whole line. I mean, no, that's got to be a bug, surely. Surely that's a bug. Oh, now in this case, it just did the word. Did you see it? So normally, you click on a word, and the whole line goes up. For some reason, it doesn't happen on the last line. On the other line it does, like, the whole line goes up and down with the word, but the last line, it does not. Weird. It's very, really strange. That's a very odd bug. That's definitely a bug. That's not an oversight, that's a bug. Alright. So, move these up a bit so that I can type the bloody notes in. So annoying when you can't. Slows you right down when you can't type your notes in. So just some octaves there. Just some octaves. Take that one down. G, E, C, D. I mean, this is the simplest possible way. If you're a bass player, and I started out my rock career playing bass. Good fun playing bass, so I highly recommend it. And you know, octaves are a really common thing for a bass player. I mean, it's better than playing just the exact same note. If you can play a different octave, you're playing a different note, but it's the same note, which is good. You get the best of both worlds. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I haven't bothered to sketch in. I need 3 more notes to fill in the end of the phrase, and I'm not sure how I'm going to do it, but I'll figure that out later. Just trying to sketch this in at the moment. A B and a D. So basically just playing the root note. Oh God. Can't go wrong with the root note in the bass. Can't go wrong. It might not be the optimal, but it won't be wrong. And you know, a lot of bassists without much imagination will always play the root note. Adam Clayton from U2 might be a case in point. Not the most imaginative bass player, but he's not wrong, you know. So people could criticise him, but he gets the job done. He gets the job done and gives the other instruments the foundation that they need. So I'm not going to knock someone too much who just plays the root note. It's not a crime to just play the root note. It's not a crime. Might not be very clever and it might not be optimal, but it's never going to be wrong. And this thing is supposed to be a G, that's a B, right, that's got to come down an octave. All good, and then we just do this other one, which is going to be it should be much the same as the first line of this page, but it's actually, I've written it differently. Anyway, good on me. I like variation. I hope that people that play my stuff will appreciate that I vary things. I don't always play the same way twice. There's a bit of variety. Doing the same thing twice gets boring, in my opinion. Actually, it's fine to do it twice, but once you get to 3 times, it starts to be questionable whether you've not got enough variety. And a lot of modern music, or even music from the 60s and 70s, was, in my opinion, overly repetitive. And people seem to like it, but I like seeing things that are a bit richer and more complex. G. Oh, that's supposed to be up an octave. Boom, boom, that's got to be down an octave, the low G. Low G. Yes, I'm just following my pencil marks. If you're wondering why I struggle to play things on the piano after I've been writing it down, it's because it's just pencil marks and it's not the greatest thing to read. It's much easier to read music when it's really well laid out. It's much easier to read. Alright, I can save that and we'll just go to the start of the page, which is bar 28. In fact, I'll put a rehearsal mark in. It's B. So we can just go from B. Let's have a listen. There you go. Might be a tad fast. I might knock a couple of beats off per minute. It's close to the right tempo, but might just be a smidgen fast. I tend to write slow songs. I write slow songs because I like complicated arrangements, rich complicated arrangements, and rich complicated arrangements do not go well with fast, because it takes time for the ear to appreciate every note. That's what I like. I like putting time in to create the notes, but the ear has to have time to appreciate it, and you won't get that if you play fast. So if you're wondering why a lot of my songs are slow, that's why. Alright, so there's that. I'll print it out and I'll play through it tomorrow or tonight or whatever, probably tomorrow, and make any necessary changes, which there's bound to be some changes required there. I'll also consider whether the right hand accompaniment is optimal or whether something else might be good. I mean, it's in order to get a good contrast between sections, even if you're playing the same harmonic basis, you really want a different pattern in both hands. So this is just the pattern from the first verse. So I'm quite likely to change it, but I'll think about it. I haven't decided yet. And I won't decide till tomorrow. So there we go. Okay. Well, it's a couple of days later, and I basically finished off that second arrangement, and I corrected the stepwise block octaves. I got rid of them from the first arrangement, put them in the second arrangement. I'll show you that. So I think where were they? They were at the end of this line, I think. I think they were at the end of that line, I think. Anyway, they're gone. I replaced them with more of this arpeggiated stuff. So that was the first arrangement fixed. And I don't think I liked that. Let's change that. I think I like that better. And this is the second arrangement. As I discussed in the previous video, a previous section. And then I had all this simple stuff, but I decided that by and large, the simple stuff wasn't the best way to go, even though there was slightly more discord with the walking up and walking down, slightly more discord, but it wasn't enough to overwhelm the advantages of the walk up and the walk down. I felt they brought more than they lost. So I stuck with the walking up and walking down and discarded the simplistic maximal harmony solution, which, it was just a bit too boring. So I got rid of it. And I put an end on it. And anyway, let's just have a listen. Let us have a listen. Press the play button. There you go. Now the first thing you would have noticed was the tempo. So I dropped the tempo back a bit to 85 from 90, which made a lot of difference. Now people who, I've heard, scholars, music scholars, right, who think they know all about music. Well, they do not. I've heard music scholars looking at Beethoven's tempo markings and saying, well, he wrote, crotchet equals 120, so that's what it has to be. No. You people do not know what you're talking about because you don't compose. This is a perfect example of why the composer's own marks are not necessarily what they wanted. Even though they wrote them down, they're not necessarily what they wanted. I mean, I wrote down crotchet equals 90. I wrote it down myself. That was wrong, right? Because at the time, it seems right. But then you listen to it again the next day and it's wrong. It's too fast. And this happens a lot, really a lot. And often the tempo can go way down. I might have started this out. I've got a feeling the first time I wrote this out, the tempo was like crotchet equals 100, I think, something like that. And it's just gradually dropped and dropped. Because depending on the type of arrangement you're doing, how detailed the arrangement is, and how close to the final end result it is, what you hear is different. Like if you make it a really simple lead sheet with no bass or anything, basically no arrangement, it'll sound right faster. But then when you start to put the extra notes in, you realise it's got to be slower. The other thing is you've got to sing it. You've got to really sing it yourself at that speed, and that's how you find out what speed the voice wants to be. And people like Beethoven who didn't sing couldn't do that. So he didn't really know. I mean, sure, I guess he's played it through with his piano and his metronome, if his metronome could even be trusted, which it couldn't, I believe. He's played it through and thought it was fine, but that's just on the day, plus the guy was deaf, No, he didn't mean it. All you people who play Beethoven too fast, let me tell you straight, he didn't mean it that fast. It's just the way it came out on the day when he was running it through, either in his head, or just listening to the metronome and playing it in his head, or playing it on the piano. That's not the same as playing it with an orchestra. No, it isn't. So, all you scholars, you don't know what you're talking about. I'll tell you how to work it out. You approach the music with a brain and common sense, and you listen to the different tempi, and you find the one that's right. And if you're a singer, you bloody sing it. You sing it at different tempi until you find the one that works, the one that's right, the one that feels right. When it feels right, it's right. Don't worry about what's written on the score. No. Just because the composer did it doesn't mean that that's what he meant. I mean, when I was writing this, maybe I was playing it at crotchet equals 85, but then when I came to fiddle with the tempo, once I'd typed it in, I decided to say, crotchet equals 100. But no, it's not. It's not. And I'm the guy that wrote it. And I still got it wrong. And it's the same with all these composers. Until you have tried it out in the real world and tried different tempi, until you've done that, you don't know what the tempo really is, no matter even if you're the composer, right? Very important. And it's just a classic case where academics who think they understand music should butt the fuck out and shut the fuck up, because you don't know. Leave it to the singers, leave it to the composers, leave it to the conductors, and just butt out, because you don't know. The only people that know are the musicians. And even they don't probably know if they've been brought up in a school that says, oh, whatever the composer wrote is sacrosanct. You cannot change it. You cannot doubt it. It must be true. No, it doesn't have to be true. I'm telling you. I hate it. Like, this is the stupidity of the modern world, and this has been going on for the past 30 or 40 years. Tempi are too fast. And you get fuckwits like Roger Norrington taking stuff at a huge clip. Why? He's got some theory, or he saw a tempo marking, so he's going to follow it no matter how horrible it sounds. And it sounds horrible. It sounds shit. Pachelbel's Canon, right? You listen to that these days, and it's taken at a huge clip. When they get to the fast bit, it's way too fast. Completely destroys the magic of the piece. Completely destroyed. Of course, it's already destroyed. It's been hackneyed to death. But if you listen to music from 100 years, recorded music from 100 years ago or 50 years ago, when they had common sense, the conductors had common sense, and they did not allow pedagogy to influence their choice of tempo or dynamics or rubato. They did not allow so-called scholars to change and ruin what they knew was the right tempo and the right instrumentation and the right feel. They knew what was right back then because it's common sense. You know when a piece is too fast, unless you're a brain-dead fuckwit, like a lot of these people are these days. Idiots. Go and listen to the old stuff. Like, listen to Thomas Beecham's version of the Messiah. Now that is the ultimate, that's the benchmark, the true test. Beecham's Messiah. Beat that if you can. You never will. And then, some of his tempi would be, scholars poo-poo it these days. And his additional instrumentation, scholars aghast. How dare he add trombones? Well, trombones would have been added by Handel if they were around at the time. Handel was a really flexible genius, and he certainly would have incorporated them. Beecham was right in what he did. And just listen to loads of stuff. Ombre My Foo, listen to people sing that. And these days I'll be singing it too fast. Some conduct, and you get idiot pedagogues, right? There's one problem. The other problem is some conductors, or I guess all conductors, realise that speed brings excitement. When a piece is fast, it's exciting, and the audience want excitement. That's what they think. So by deliberately taking the piece at a furious clip, they think people will love it. Well, no. You've just ruined it, you idiots. You vandals. You've ruined the piece just in a ridiculous, stupid, bloody-minded attempt to make yourself more successful. You've sacrificed the beauty of music for your potential career advancement, and that's disgusting. You should be kicked out of the sport. Music's about music. All musicians, singers, musicians, composers, conductors, we should all be aiming to make the music as good as it can be. Everything else is second. Audience, money, prestige, all second. Number one should always be make the music as good as can be. Your true love has to be for the music, not for your job. Not for your job, not for the money, not for your name in lights. No, for the music. That's got to be number one always. And if you can't do that, kick yourself out of the sport. You don't belong in it. There you go. That's me getting on my pedestal. Because I've got to say, because I am so sick of modern so-called experts ruining the great music of the past. It's disgusting what they do. It's disgusting. So I highly advocate, go and listen to the great masters from 50, 70, 100 years ago. Listen to them. Listen to the great opera singers. Listen to Hina Spani, forgotten opera singer. Listen to her doing the theme from La Wally. Fantastic. Just incredible. Listen to Caruso. Listen to... there's so many great singers of the past, my God, But listen to them all. Listen to all the great singers from the past. Compare them. Everyone's done Ombre My Foo. Listen to them. Compare them. Decide which one you like. Who do you like? Which are too fast, which are in the wrong bloody key. Change the damn key, you idiots. I hate it. I mean, the trumpet shall sound. Should always be in D, you know. But every now and then you'll hear it and it isn't. What? What? Madness. Anyway, so I changed the tempo. To get back to the original topic, I changed the tempo. And I think it's much better at this tempo. Much better. And I didn't do much in the way of changes to the first verse because it's already been bedded in for a long time. The second verse, what I did do was I found an excuse to use a half diminished seventh, which in the key of G is the F sharp half diminished seventh. The most misunderstood and least represented chord in the world, the half diminished seventh. Jazz musicians don't even call it by its proper name. They call it a 7 flat fifth, which is a minor 7 flat fifth, which is stupid. I'll tell you why it's stupid. It's wrong because it's denying the true provenance of the chord. The chord is a diminished, it's a minor third and diminished fifth. Now straight away that makes it a diminished chord. But the jazz musicians have changed, they don't call it a diminished chord, even though it is. So they've got it wrong. They've said, oh, it's really a minor seventh with a flat fifth. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. It's a diminished chord with a augmented diminished seventh, i.e. a tone below the top. That's what it is. Well, you know, I guess there's a lot of people in jazz who work from feel and don't really know the theory. Anyway, that's the first thing. Wrong names. The second thing is people think it's an exotic chord. It isn't. It's only exotic because you don't hear it very much. People don't use it very much because it's a strange chord and it's hard. You've got to find the right occasion to use it. But it is a natural seventh from the diatonic scale. What is that? The Ionian scale, is it? The normal one? Can't remember the names, stupid names of the modes. Anyway, your standard major scale, all the notes of the half diminished seventh are in it. If you're in the key of G, it's F sharp, A, C, and E. They're all from the scale. So it's not an alien chord. It belongs in the scale. It's from the scale. There's nothing in it that's out of the scale. So people need to get to know it. Don't be afraid of it. Get to know it, where to use it, how to use it. I've been using it for 30 years. And I guess because I use it often, not too often, but I use it quite often. And I guess that's another thing that people might say, oh, that's indicative of Warren Mars's style, you know, because he uses this strange chord. Well, yes, I use it quite often, not hugely often, but a lot, quite a bit. And I use it because I believe it is a natural part of the scale and it belongs there. That's why I use it. I'm bringing it up to people's attention so that it'll be in the future, it'll be regarded as a normal chord, you know, perhaps equal to the fully diminished seventh. And the fully diminished seventh, everyone knows that, you know, that's the quintessential seventh. But the half diminished seventh, all you're doing is you're pushing the top note, the seventh, up a semitone. That's all you're doing, and it belongs in the scale if you do that, and not if you don't. So the fully diminished seventh is used for changing keys, and it's used in the harmonic minor, but it doesn't belong in the full diatonic folk tradition, which this song is. That's when you need the half diminished seventh, because in the diatonic folk tradition, every note is in the key, every note is in the scale, including all the notes of the chords. In the true tradition, I mean, they do, say, Irish music, you do get quite a few Irish folk songs where they bring in, for instance, the chord on the second will be, instead of being a minor, they'll make it a major, or the chord on the sixth, they'll make that a major instead of a minor. Especially on the second, that's very common. Same as it is in country music, very, very common to make the second degree chord a major, very common. So that does happen, and you'll get a note that's out of key when you do that. But otherwise, everything else will be in the scale. But in this is the classic diatonic where every note's in the scale. Every chord's in the scale, every note's in the scale. And that's where you want the half diminished seventh. So I just fitted it in there. I'll play it when I go back to the piano, and I'll show you how beautiful it is. I also found it somewhere else. Oh, I can't remember where, but it's somewhere else in this piece. Very briefly. Anyway, so that's the result, which I'm happy with. Came out very well, I think. But then there's the question of, we've got 3 verses and we've got 2 arrangements. What we need is a third arrangement. There's always something missing. And the other thing is, so we've got, in both cases in the right hand, I've used the melody with some block harmony underneath it in the right hand, in both verses that I've arranged. Exactly the same. So that has to, that needs a contrasting element. So if I insert a new arrangement between these two, then there can be one arrangement for each verse. And in this new arrangement, if I will not use the right hand the way it is, I'll put in a different right hand. I'll put in a right hand without the melody. And I'll put in a bass. I won't have a bass. I'm going to do the whole thing up high. So both hands will be in the treble. They'll both be playing fairy dairy music around the chord. So it'll be maybe semi-quavers, fairy dairy semi-quavers up high, and it'll just be the bass voice in the bass. That's all there'll be in the bass. So the bass voice will be on its own. It'll have the opportunity to shine. Won't be anything near it, and the singer will be able to really get into it. There is the question of, when the singer is singing, should there be an instrument doubling the melody? And there's 2 schools of thought. Yes, there is. Yes, there should be, and no, there shouldn't. Right? So the no, there shouldn't be school says, well, the singer wants to have the melody to himself or herself, and everyone else should just stop playing it so that it's only them, and everyone else is just playing some sort of ornamentation. And that's true. I mean, it is great. It's a great thing. A great singer able to let his voice fly or her voice fly. It's fantastic. So that school is true. But there's also the school that says, well, it's nice as a singer to have support. Not only harmonic support, but also melodic support. It's lovely to have a melody an octave above you. You don't want someone playing the same note as you. That can put you off. But an octave above, it's lovely. As long as it doesn't drown you out, it's a beautiful thing. Just like if you are doing a melody in an orchestral setting, and you've got, say, first violins are playing the melody. Well, what are the second violins playing? Dumpty Dumpty or an arpeggio, or are they playing the melody an octave below? And in my opinion, having the melody doubled in octaves just sounds fantastic. It's really good. It's much better, in my opinion, than having it in one octave only, in pure unison, which is okay. But when you double it an octave up or an octave down, fantastic. And you can even do it three ways. You can have the central one and then one above and one below, and that's fantastic too. Fantastic. This is the kind of thing that happens in orchestras all the time. So why not in an accompaniment? So there's merit in both schools. Both ideas have merit. So if both ideas have merit, let's do both of them. Let's do them both, and then everyone gets a go. Both ideas get a go. Everyone's happy. That's my theory. So this song is going to start with the arpeggios, which is nice and relaxed and flowing, and it's got the melody. That's great. And also, if the singer is being doubled with a melody, it helps the singer get his pitch or her pitch, get it spot on. So that's the first verse, and then you get the second verse, which will be the singer on his own, and by this stage the singer knows exactly what the pitch is, and he should be able to hold his pitch well. And we've got a high fast fairy dairy accompaniment, which go well with the second verse. And then the final verse, obviously the final verse is usually the most serious. We go back to a down to earth thumping in the bass, octaves in the bass, walking up and down, and melody again, the melody with the chords in the right hand, which is the most natural way to do it. And so you end on it with a serious and full sound, and that's it. So you've covered we've got three different verses, we've got three different moods. Variety, the spice of music. So there you go. That's where I'm at. I can see the finish line now, so I just need to work out what that fairy dairy accompaniment is going to be and get on with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a second part in between the two that I've already got. I'm going to do that. I'm going to print out the manuscript for that bit, and I'll see you at the piano.